It is now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Jim Fiedler. He's our Chief Operating Officer overseeing the water utility business side of our house, and whose tremendous leadership brings you safe drink water every day. Do a little bio of Jim. They gave me quite a reading here for Jim. I was going to annotate it, but I thought it would not. So Jim Fiedler is our Chief Operating Officer. He's been a member of the Water District staff since 1982. That's over 30 years of leadership and engineering he's brought to this town in terms of water supply, flood protection, and watershed stewardship. His management and technical experience include regional water supply, flood and environmental planning, design, construction, operation, maintenance of water supply, and flood protection infrastructure. In addition, Jim serves as a chair of the San Francisco Estuary Institute Board of Directors. He's a board member of the Water Reefs Association, member of the State Advisory Group for Direct Potable Reefs in California. He's a past president of the National Association of Flood and Storm Management Agencies, and he's a board member of the San Francisco Bay Planning Coalition. Now I know why I can never find him when I'm looking for him. Jim is also a registered engineer in California. He's a graduate of Loyola Marymount from LA, where he received his Bachelor's of Science in Civil Engineering, and a graduate of Stanford University, where he has received his Master's in Civil Engineering. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Jim. Thank you.
Now that my time's run out, I'll introduce the next speaker. So moving on here, I have the task in 15 minutes or less to explain water to you. So you'll take your text test, I guess, and see how I did in teaching you the news about water. I know many of you are well aware of it. But what I'm going to do instead is talk about the water development in Santa Clara County, where we were and where we got to, where we are today, as far as being the water needs in our county. So what you see on the screen is a sort of a map of Santa Clara County and what our earlier residents, the Native Americans who were here, used to rely on water supply. Again, it was largely the local supply from our stream systems, the Guadalupe, the Coyote, and the other streams on the west side that really were the sustaining force of water for them to use. So as we evolved into this last century, now 2 centuries ago, using the groundwater basin as a source of supply for the county. Wells were dug in the 1800s. A number of wells were dug. There's an early photo about circa 1875, I guess it's an illustration of what San Jose looked like well over 100 years ago. And again, the economy here, the agricultural economy was thriving on water from the ground, and even predated electricity, using wind power to generate pumping power to raise that water from the aquifers. However, what was an issue then, and it's today an issue in many parts of the state, the overdraft of the groundwater basin. There's an article from a newspaper in the 1900s, early 1900s, that talks about San Jose sinking 4 feet in the last 14 years. Due to the overdraft of our groundwater, the land beneath our feet was literally dropping. And so something needed to be done. There was great concern being raised in the 1920s. There was a report written, you can get a copy in our water district. In 1921, a gentleman named Fred Tippett out of San Francisco produced a report to look at what could we do to better manage water resources in Santa Clara County. And so in his report, he envisioned constructing a number of local dams to store runoff from our watersheds and then use that water to percolate back into the groundwater basin. And so there was a plan. Now you needed basically a governmental entity and funding to pay for that. So in 1929, and that's not a photo from Chinatown or a Hollywood movie, that's a photo from San Jose that says vote for water or desert in the election in 1929. And this election took place right after the stock market crashed. And the voters at that time overwhelmingly supported the formation of a conservation district, who would then be the entity to develop the water supply to help meet those needs at that time. And so with that water conservation entity, But with the bonding capability supplemented with federal funding, a number of local dams were constructed. So you see here in 1935, construction of Calero Dam and the Calero outlet. And so in a short period of time, of which we cannot replicate today, I think it was a matter of about 2 or 3 years, 6 dams were constructed in Santa Clara County, from Stevens Creek in the north to Coyote Reservoir in the south. These reservoirs combined to allow us to store water to use to replenish the groundwater basin, about 40,000 acre feet. The important news is that those facilities built in the 1930s are still in use today, provided we get rainfall, to allow us to continue to manage the water supply for Santa Clara County. Additional reservoirs were built in the 1950s, that was Anderson and Lexington. But what became apparent was that the local supplies in our county could not meet the needs for water. And so what you see illustrated on there is a commercial or an advertisement by the San Jose Chamber of Commerce in 1946. And it could have been in a function at the Fairmont, for all I know, where they were touting this important region, Santa Clara County. And the poster read, I see a market of 40 million people with Santa Clara County as the hub. Now, 40 million wasn't going to be the population of Santa Clara County. It was the whole west coast of the United States. But the realization there was, given the features of Santa Clara County, this could be the hub for commerce. And really, what visionaries they really were, because today Santa Clara County is the hub for not only the west coast, but the United States in terms of high-tech and innovation. But that you also see illustrated there is the growth of the population in our region. So we went from an agricultural area with orchards to a thriving manufacturing region. And you see what happened in the ensuing time, the population growth from the 1940s, believe it or not, the population of Santa Clara County under 200,000. So you imagine what it was like then, and then you see the burgeoning growth that occurred, post-World War II boom, and you see the need for continuing to manage our supplies. So what was the solutions at that time? Well, this is a photo that shows the need to bring imported water, water that's generated outside our region, into Santa Clara County. And the first such source of imported water was the Hetch-Hetchy system from the city and county of San Francisco. Here you see a photo of the construction that was occurring. No, they weren't going to bring cattle through the pipeline, they were actually going to bring water. And you can see in the background Hoover Tower in Palo Alto. And so this was the first delivery of imported water into Santa Clara County, started in the 1950s. Fast forwarding to 65, you see the then governor, who's the current governor's father, touting the State Water Project, and in 1965, the State Water Project began deliveries into Santa Clara County. Now what's shown on the slide there on the left, you see the outline of Santa Clara County, you see the lines that we picked. One, the red line is the Hetch-Hetchy system, and then the orange line, the State Water Project entering Santa Clara County in the northern part of our region. And then in-county distribution system was starting to be constructed to move that state water through the county. And so what you see depicted on there is our central pipeline that passes not too far from here, that brings state water across the valley floor and bringing it over to the west side of Santa Clara County. But an important feature that was a result of bringing imported water, not only provide for water supply, but halting that subsidence that I mentioned earlier that occurred throughout our region. So we were able to bring in imported water to supplement our local supplies to recharge our groundwater. We also recognized that just recharging our groundwater was not sufficient. We need to allow our customers to rely on surface deliveries of imported water. So we constructed our first large water treatment plant, completed in 1967, that would take imported water, and instead of people pumping from the groundwater, they would instead take water from our surface treatment plant. This had an 80 million gallon a day capacity. In 1974, we constructed our second water treatment plant, Penitentiary, on the east side of Santa Clara County, located at the top on that slide. Again, supplementing our imported water with treated water to serve our customers and again take some of that burden off the groundwater basin. However, even the imported water from Hetch-Hetchy and the State Water Project were not sufficient to meet our, again, growing needs for water supply. So, what you see here depicted in the 1980s, we started a project to bring water from San Luis Reservoir, located near Los Banos, into Santa Clara County. We had a tunnel project that was completed. You can see they made a breakthrough in 1981. to connect San Luis Reservoir into our water distribution system in Santa Clara County. That's known as the Central Valley Project San Felipe Division, bringing water from San Luis Reservoir to the base of Anderson Dam. And then we completed our infrastructure by tapping that system into our Almaden Valley and Cross Valley pipeline to basically bring imported water from San Luis all the way over to Los Gatos to serve our treatment plants. We also constructed our third water treatment plant in 1989, the Santa Teresa plant, 100 million gallons a day, to also use that imported water to again meet the growing needs for water supply. And then, if we move forward in time, we recognize that with new technologies and new demands for treatment, we opted to add ozonation to 2 of our 3 water treatment plants. And so you see some of that configuration there for taste and odor, and also to improve the overall treatability and quality of our treated drinking water. To also supplement our abilities to make sure we're delivering high quality water, in 2008 we completed a really state-of-the-art laboratory that allows us to basically test our water quality, and it says on there, at the bottom, over 170,000 tests are done annually through that lab to make sure our water meets or exceeds the drinking water standards, and also provides for what the customer demands for water are. And then, as Beau alluded to, just this past July, we brought online our 4th water treatment plant. It's a water purification facility. It takes effluent from the adjoining wastewater treatment plant, treats it to high quality for use to improve the quality of non-potable water, but great potential for us to use the same technology to recharge our groundwater basin or even provide direct water supply from wastewater in our future. So where you see we are, our history, we've gone from an agricultural region to now basically a booming area with close to 2 million people. A number of cities in our county, we have a number of water purveyors that we sell water to who also pump from the groundwater basin. A number of private well owners that also pump. We also have agricultural interests in the South County that still rely upon the groundwater basin to meet their water supply needs. And so what it looks like today from the water picture, and here's a map that shows some of those imported water sources that come into Santa Clara County. Today, we rely on imported water to meet over half our water supplies in a normal year. In dry years, today, we need more water from imported supplies. About 30% is locally derived, which we're very fortunate to have those local reservoirs that allow us to store local runoff when we have it. Currently, 5% of our needs are met by recycled water. And then, because of a number of aggressive programs we've instituted over the years, 10% of our needs today are met through conservation. So it's a tribute to our communities that really respond so well over time to the need for us to be wiser with our use of water. So, fast forwarding now, here's that same map we saw earlier with the native population back in the pre-1920s. It's a map that doesn't show the freeway system of Santa Clara County. It shows the water infrastructure that's managed today by the Santa Clara Valley Water District. See some of the statistics on there. Over 140 miles of large diameter pipe, anywhere from 30 inches in diameter to close to 100 inches in diameter. 4 water treatment plants. Over close to 400 acres of recharge ponds. When we have the water, we want to recharge our groundwater basin. So that's the picture of our county as it is today from a water perspective. So over time, we went from the Valley of Heart's Delight to Silicon Valley. We were very proud of that transition, although some of us wish it would have been nice to have the Valley of Heart's Delight. But it's a delight for many to live here, to thrive on the economy that's generated by the high-tech industry that, underlying it all, relies on an adequate supply of water to make that industry go. And then another way of looking at our history is through this graph for the engineers in the room. 3 main lines on there. The top line is the land elevation, and you see that subsidence that occurred in the county. And the slide depicts that it subsided about 13 feet between 1915 and 1970. The green line on there shows the population growth of the region. And then very importantly, the blue line shows an actual depth of water in an index well in San Jose, really not too far from here, over time. And so what you see depicted on there is really the history of water development in our county. In those pre-1920s, you see the groundwater table dropping. Concerns about subsidence and the lack of water in wells led to the formation of the water district and the construction of those dams and reservoirs. And you see the rebound of the groundwater table as a result of that. Then you see post-World War II boom. You see the continuing dropping of that groundwater table until the 1960s, coinciding with the head change deliveries in our county and the importation of water through the state water project. Then you see in the late 1980s, where again the groundwater table began to drop once again. We then brought in the Central Valley Project waters into our county, and you see where the result is today. And then during this current drought period, you see the basin now continue to reverse course going down as we recognize we need to provide a continuation of the adequate supplies of water for our region. And so as we look forward, and I know today we'll have many of the speakers talking about this, what's our future? Well, we know that we need to double the conservation savings that we rely on today. As I mentioned before, 10% of our supply today is made up by conservation. We want to double that in the next 20 years. We want to maintain and modernize our infrastructure, our dams, our treatment plants. Catherine Oven and staff will talk more about that later this morning. Investing and advancing in purified water. We have the example of the plant that's online today. We see great promise in expanding the use of recycled water in a purified form to recharge and provide a potable water source for our region. And then restoring the Delta ecosystem, we talked about later too. The reliance about water through the Delta still remains a challenge for us to rely upon today. So we talk about those that they build it for us. What you saw, the system that's been built by the men and women, the vendors, the contractors, over the last close to 100 years. They built a system that we rely upon today. Our challenge today is to make sure we can rebuild that system for the next generation that come after us. So that's the history. That's Water 101. Don't know if we're going to be tested on it, but that's my remarks for this morning. Thank you.